牵挂，像一场迷雾笼罩着你呀，淡薄的想法，自在的人啊，像一场春雨滋润着莲花，浮生像落花季，流水年华，寂寂与静谧，奔波的人啊，欣然的美丽，看凡尘变化，盛开的绽放，羞耻的生活。心像自由的云朵，看欢喜随春雨洒落，滋润哭泣的人们，观自在，看花谢花落，让心情像自由的云朵，飘过海呀，越过山峰，乘着光影，化身为彩虹。
Hi there.
Good evening, Venerable Bante. This is Jessica speaking now. So while waiting for the event to start.
Sorry, the music is too loud. I can't hear you. There. Say again, please. Hello.
Yes, Bante. So while waiting before the event starting, we can maybe start trying to check the sound, so to make sure that everything's fine, working well.
Okay, that's good. How is that? Is that loud enough? Can you hear me?
Yes, it's
Okay,
very good. How
excellent.
about the translator? The translator can hear Venerable Bante very well. Okay,
If I
okay,
talk
from
here,
Thai.
okay.
Thank.
那么你
Okay.
们是翻译哪一种语言呢？翻译
Excuse
中
me.
文还是泰文？你们翻译是哪个？ Are you translating
There.
Mandarin or Thai or bahasa?
Yes. So for today, we have a translators from English to Thai language and
Okay,
to Bahasa Indonesia.
great. Oh,
Yeah.
lovely.
So
Okay.
yeah. So there will be 3 languages today.
So Chinese listeners don't get a translation.
Yes. Unfortunately, today we didn't make it to get the Chinese translators,
Okay.
Bante.
All right. I can do my own, but that'll slow everything down.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. So you can also speak in Chinese, right?
Yeah, mama ho ho.
Ah. Okay. Okay, Bante.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
so
So,
you can see from the screen.
mhm,
The screen will be shown that way to all the
okay,
participants. Yes.
very
So
nice.
they are the translator.
Okay.
Yes. On the left is the translator for Bahasa Indonesia. On the right is the translator for
Oh,
Thai
that's
language.
wonderful. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I will try to speak slowly, so that everyone can can understand my American English.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll be
Really
right with you.
appreciate it.
We're going to
Okay.
start in about 8 minutes, right?
Yes, okay. We can on
Okay.
standby right
I'll
now.
be
Thank
right
you,
back.
Bente.
Okay, bye-bye. Yeah.
Bye.
在命里为俘虏牵挂，像一场迷雾笼罩着你呀，单薄的想法，自在的人啊，像一场春雨滋润着莲花。浮生像落花季，流水年华，寂寂与静谧，奔波的人啊，欣然的美丽，看凡尘变化，盛开的绽放，羞耻的生活。倾向自由的云朵，看欢喜随春雨洒落，滋润哭泣的人们，观自在，看花谢花落，让心倾向自由的云朵，飘过海呀，越过山峰，乘着光影，化身为彩虹。
International Dharma Teaching. The spirit of the Buddha's teaching leads to a beautiful and happier life. Wandami to all Sangha attending this event. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Suki Hotu, Namo Buddhaya. Omitoho, Tashi Dele. Indonesian Buddhist International Association, or known as Keluarga Cendekiawan Buddha Indonesia, and Indonesian Buddhist Council Association, or WALUBI, organized a series of international Dharma teaching to welcome Vesak 2556 Buddhist era. This auspicious series starts today with the teaching from our Venerable Bhikkhu, Professor Heng from Chan tradition in Queensland, Australia. Next week on April 17th at 6:30 p.m. Jakarta time, we will receive another teaching from His Eminence 12th Zurmang Garwang Rinpoche. On April 24th, Venerable Bhikkhu Luangpor Inthawai Santussako Mahathera from Thailand will be giving the teaching for us. On April 1st, we will receive teaching from Venerable Ajahn Jayasaro from Thailand. The last but not least, on May 8th, we will be listening to Venerable Tan Ajahn Cagino from Thailand as well. My name is Jessica. I will be hosting today's session and speaking mainly in English. Our venerable teachers will speak in English or Chinese or Thai. But worry not, because we have a handful team of translators who will translate into English and Mandarin and Thailand. For today's speakers, our venerable teacher will speak in English. So for everyone who needs translation in English, you can only stay in your main channel. Well, for you who need bahasa Indonesia translation, apabila Bapak Ibu membutuhkan terjemahan bahasa Indonesia, you can choose the on Zoom panel button. There's a menu called interpretation, and you can choose bahasa Indonesia. For you who need Thai interpretation, you can choose Thai language. This event will last for an hour and a half. There will be a 15-minute question and answer session later, but you can start submitting your questions from now or maybe later once our teacher starts giving the teaching, and you can submitting the questions until after the teachers finish the teaching. How to submit your question? You can see on your screen right now another instruction. You can see on your menu, Zoom menu there will be a panel called Q&A. You choose the Q&A and then you can start type and submit the questions there. And you don't have to worry about the language again, because you can start typing with your own private language. Our team in the background will work on the translation for you. Now we will be listening to the Indonesia national anthem and KCBI hymn.
kcbi, Keluarga Cendekiawan Buddhis Indonesia, terapkanlah langkahmu seiring surya memerah kegelapan, menabur ceria, meniti hidup indah bermakna. KCBI, Keluarga Cendekiawan Buddhis Indonesia, yang bernaung bawah panji bodhisatwa, berjuang menegakkan kemuliaan sesama, membuka mata dunia. Singkirkan kemarahan, hempaskan keserakahan, jauh
Now I would like to invite the Chief General of Indonesian Buddhist Intellectual Association, Venerable Bhikkhu Dhammawudo. Please, Bante.
Ya, selamat siang Bapak Ibu dan saudara-saudari sedama, Sukihoto, Namo Buddhaya. Dalam rangka menyambut Waisak tahun 2022, kami keluarga besar Cendekiawan Buddhis Indonesia mengadakan International Dharma Teaching. Semoga ini menjadi semangat, menjadi inspirasi kita untuk memasuki Waisak di tahun 2022. Dan semoga dengan adanya teaching dari guru-guru yang terbaik, mereka dapat menginspirasi, memberikan kita panutan, agar kita bisa menjadi pribadi-pribadi yang lebih hebat, lebih baik di masa mendatang. And thank you so much for Venerable Bhiksu Heng for give the Dharma teaching today. And then I hope Shifu can lead us, give the benefit for us for teaching today. And we hope also Shifu can help and all your Dharma activity can increase. Thank you, Shifu.
Thank you, Venerable Bhikkhu Dhammawudo, for the words. Now I would like to read a brief profile of our teachers today. Venerable Bhikkhu Heng was born on October 31st, 1949, is an American Chan Buddhist monk. He is a senior disciple of Venerable Master Sun Hua and is currently the director of the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, a branch monastery of the Dhamma Realm Buddhist Association. He was ordained in 1976 at the city of 10,000 Buddhas as Heng a Dharma name which means constantly real. He earned an MA degree in Oriental Languages from the University of California, Berkeley in 1976, and a PhD in Religion from the Graduate Theological Union, Berkeley in 2003. He gives lectures to the public and through webcasts, as well as in many parts of the world on various subjects, such as the sutras and veganism. He is also an accomplished musician and guitarist. He is best known for a pilgrimage he made for 2 years and 6 months from 1977 to 1979, called a 3 steps, 1 bow pilgrimage. Venerable Bhikkhu Heng and his companion, Venerable Bhikkhu Heng Chao, bowed from South Pasadena to Ukiah, California, a distance of 800 miles, seeking world peace. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our teacher of the day, Venerable Bhikkhu Heng Please, Bante. Thank you.
Namo Fundamental Teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Banshi Shijia Moni Fo. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Venerable, for the introduction. And thank you to KCBI for inviting me to kick off this series of Dharma teachings. I'd also like to express my appreciation to the volunteers who are translating, so that the words that I say in English can go further to Bahasa Indonesia speakers and to Thai speakers. 我们今天我所讲的英文恐怕没办法翻译中文，希望以后大家可以有机会就跟你结善法言。So in the future we'll have an opportunity to tie up Dharma affinities with the Chinese speakers. I was delighted to be invited and to be able to share this panel with the Venerable Garwang Rinpoche, with the Venerable Santussako Mahathera, both of whom I have not yet met, but I hope in the future I'll have the opportunity, and also to share the panel with my longtime Dharma friend, Dharma brother, Ajahn Jayasaro, who I've known for years and years, and also Venerable Ajahn Cagino, who I have a great appreciation for and look forward to seeing him again. I personally have been to Indonesia on multiple occasions following my teacher, the Venerable Dharma Master Shang Shen Xiaohua Lao Hashang. And each visit to Indonesia, including an opportunity to pay a pilgrimage to Borobudur, each opportunity has been memorable, unforgettable. So today, as I look at the panel, I realize that I am perhaps the only one of the 5 panelists who is full-time bringing the Dharma to countries where Buddhism is brand new. That is to say, I spend part of my time in California, USA, and part of my time in Queensland, Australia, where I am now. Both countries of which, and if you include Canada, that's North America, both countries of which Buddhism is brand new. They don't know who the Buddha is, they haven't heard the Dharma, and they don't know what a Bhikshu is doing. Why has he shaved his head? Why is he wearing that robe? So it's a little bit different, bringing the Buddha's teachings, the spirit of the Buddha's teachings for happiness and a beautiful life. It's a little different than speaking Dharma and propagating the Buddhist teachings in countries like Indonesia, countries like Tibet, countries like Thailand, countries like China, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, places where Buddhism has been for hundreds and hundreds of years. One of the opportunities that is created by having Buddhism be an unfamiliar teaching is we have a chance to set down the old baggage that perhaps Buddhism in countries where it's been established for centuries, where that old baggage can somehow get in the way. For example, I learned the Mahayana tradition of China from the late Chan Master Hsuan, who was very much a Buddhist reformer. Master Hsuan was equally critical of both the Theravada and the Mahayana traditions, his own tradition. For example, for 30 years, during 10 consecutive ordinations, which were held roughly every 3 years, when Master Hsuan transmitted the 3 platforms of precepts in America, among the 3 masters and the 7 certifiers, which are required to make new monks, he invited bhikshus and bhikkhus from China, from Taiwan, from Thailand, from Sri Lanka, and from Vietnam. What did he say? He said, for too long, the southern tradition, the Mahayana, the southern tradition, the Theravada, has run too far to the south. The Mahayana, the northern tradition, has only known to travel too far to the north. But here we are in the 21st century, and it's time now for leaders of Buddhism to turn back from the north and the south and meet in the middle, which was the spirit of the Buddha's teaching. Master Hua gave me as my role model in cultivation the Venerable Ajahn Sumedho, an American monk in the Thai forest tradition of the elder Ajahn Chah. When Ajahn Sumedho was looking for a home for his first monastery in America, Master Hua offered him 120 acres of Mendocino County mountainside, and it became the foundation for Abhayagiri Forest Monastery in Redwood Valley, 20 miles north of the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Last year, the Sri Lankan elder American monk Bhikkhu Bodhi lectured on the Abhidharma for 3 weeks to the Fourfold Assembly at the city of 10,000 Buddhas. So with this in mind, Buddhism in the 21st century in the West, where we have set down the old baggage that perhaps we've carried for too long, where the Southern tradition calls the Northern tradition rich bankers who don't even know to stop eating at noon. And the Northern tradition looks at the Southern tradition and says, look at them. They're just self-satisfied, ending arhats, selfish. That's done that too long, too many centuries. If I could create my ideal Buddhism, after observing the Buddhist world for my 46 years now in robes, this is my 46th year as a Bhikshu, in my ideal Buddhist world, one way to improve intra-Buddhist harmony and to create happiness and a beautiful life amid the Sangha, I would remove the words small vehicle from our vocabulary, or Hinayana, and instead say Southern tradition, or the tradition of the elders, the Theravada. In Chinese, it's very easy to say, xiao cheng, always accompanied by a sound of disdain. And I think that's old world, tribal Buddhism. We now need global Buddhism. This might be one positive step to heal the split between Northern and Southern traditions, so that when Buddhists step out into interfaith gatherings, where we meet believers, teachers of other traditions, where non-Buddhist religions are present, we can arrive as a unified body of wisdom and compassion, including, of course, the Tibetan Mahayana. Surely the Buddha's intent was not to have various schools of his disciples in competition with each other, or distant from each other and out of communication. I was present when Master Hua demonstrated this open-hearted attitude towards religious leaders of other traditions. In Los Angeles in 1978, I was present when Master Hua met the late Paul Cardinal Yubin Shuji Zhujiao, the Chinese Roman Catholic cardinal. Although, curiously, they came from the same hometown in Manchuria, they had both never met each other growing up. And yet they had gone forth to become leaders of their respective traditions. Cardinal Yubin came into the living room where they met in Los Angeles and said, I very much like the sound of your voice, although I've never seen you before. Master Hua replied, 当然, 我们是知音者. He said, of course you do. We are 知音者, one who knows each other's sound. We are soulmates. Later on, Master Hua invited Cardinal Yubin, the Roman Catholic Cardinal of China, to the city of 10,000 Buddhas. And the thought occurred to him, I might say, with a little bit of mischief in mind. How shall I get the Catholic cardinal to bow to the Buddha? He said. So, when they came in front of the large 1,000-hand image of Guanyin Bodhisattva at City of 10,000 Buddhas, Master Hua said, Cardinal Yubin, I have an idea, he said. I want you to become the Buddhist among the Catholics. What do you say? Cardinal Yubin wrinkled up his brow and looked a little cross. Master Hua continued. He said, now, don't get upset. He said, hear me out. I want you to be the Buddhist among the Catholics, and I will be the Catholic among the Buddhists. That way, when two of the world's major religions refuse to fight with each other, we can show others that peace among religions is possible. What do you say now? Cardinal Yubin paused for a moment, and he slapped his thigh, and he said, let's do it. He put his palms together and made a half bow to Guanyin Bodhisattva. He then went on to accept Master Hua's invitation to serve as the Director General of the Institute for World Religions at the City of 10,000 Buddhas. So if we're interested in how to continue the spirit of the Buddha for happiness and a beautiful life, I can think of no better way than to put aside the things that divide intra-Buddhist communication so that we can foster interreligious communication. A collaborative spirit like this led the way for a joint Buddhist Catholic monastic gathering at Gethsemane Abbey in Kentucky in 2008, a meeting that brought the Theravada, Mahayana, Zen, and Tibetan Buddhists together, as well as Buddhist scholars, together with Roman Catholic, Benedictine, Trappist, monks, and scholars, to discuss our shared attitudes towards protecting our natural environment. The result of this gathering was a book entitled Green Monasticism, a Buddhist Catholic Response to an Environmental Calamity. This is available on Amazon in Gethsemane Encounters, book number 3. So, although we want to join with our brothers and sisters from other religions in meaningful dialogue, if we fail to recognize the value of our own treasures of wisdom, it's harder to dialogue as equals. Master Hua pointed out the need for Chinese Buddhists to open up our Mahayana sutras and to translate them into the world's languages. This is a missed opportunity to spread the Dharma. Our sutras have such profound principles of wisdom and compassion that create genuine benefit for humanity. Before Buddhism can become a truly world religion and fulfill its potential to spread the Dharma and Buddhist culture far and wide, we have to share our sutras with the world. For example, we know that anywhere in the world, hotel rooms have bedside tables. In the drawers of most of those tables, you find a copy of the Holy Bible in the local language of the country. How many times have you opened up the drawer to find a Buddhist sutra? Not that many. In the ideal Buddhism that I want to design for the post-tribal 21st century, in every hotel room in the world, when you open up the drawer, you will find the Holy Bible, as well as a copy of the Agamas, the Lotus Sutra, the Amitabha Sutra, the Vajra, Prajna, Paramita Sutra, the Pali language sutras and Paramita chanting of the Thai forest tradition. I would like to share a true story that happened recently about wherever people cultivate the way, humanity benefits in inconceivable ways, becomes happy, and lives a more beautiful life. In October of 2017, people will recall it was global news about severe wildfires that broke out in Northern California, causing our neighboring Buddhist community of Abhayagiri Forest Monastery to have to evacuate the monastery in the dark of night. In Redwood Valley, California, the flames were coming from every side. 28 monks and laypeople fled the fires, not knowing when they would return and whether or not they would find their newly renovated monastery intact when the fires were out. The monks of Abhayagiri found shelter at the city of 10,000 Buddhas for a week after. The two communities blending together in ceremonies, meditation, receiving offerings from the laity, and in the daily work. After 1 week of anxiety about their homes, the local fire marshals gave permission for the Abhayagiri community to return to Redwood Valley. Driving into the mountain, surrounded by scenes of burned out homes and vineyards to every side, the monks worried what they would find. As they approached the monastery, they were greeted by a group of firefighters who had used the monastery parking lot, Abhayagiri's parking lot, to manage their fire trucks and equipment. One of the firefighters, an Apache Indian from New Mexico who had come to California to join in the effort to fight the fires, said, "Now, we have firefighters here who have seen a lot, but they've never seen anything like this. Your forest rejected the fires. the flames burned right up to the edge of your property and then stopped. It's as if something was protecting your forest. Not a blade of grass burned. Look, there's the ash and the burned cinders. That's green trees. One line at the edge of your property. This is a spiritual place, said the Apache Indian. Whatever you are doing inside, keep doing it, he said. So Ajahn Pasano, Ajahn Amaro accompanied the community to inspect the grounds. They discovered that both their monastery and right next door, the neighbors of Abhayagiri Forest Monastery, is Mount Tabor, a Ukrainian Catholic monastery with celibate monks wearing black robes, long beards, painting icons, Catholic monastics right next door to Abhayagiri. Monks live and pray there all day, all year round. Their monastery was spared by the forest fires that burned on every side. But next door to Mount Tabor, on the same mountain, a Thai Buddhist bhikkhu had built a monastery on the same mountain, but he had no disciples on staff. No cultivation was going on inside his place. He set up the monastery, brought the Buddha images in, but then he returned to Thailand. He left the monastery in the hands of one caretaker. When the fires came, the monastery burned that place to the ground. The fierce heat melted all the Buddha images, so their faces were unrecognizable. 3 monasteries, but only 2 survived the catastrophic forest fires. The Buddhist and Catholic places both received the protection of the Devas and the Dharma protectors, because both communities were doing spiritual cultivation, the work of cultivating the Dharma inside. The empty Bodhimanda, although it held the signs of the Buddhist religion, it had a church, but without people doing the Buddha's work inside, did not get protection. Finally, now it is time for us to let go of our attachments from the past that grew when we had no contact with each other. The Thai tradition and the Chinese tradition seldom met. The Tibetan tradition and the Japanese tradition seldom met. Much less did we meet with believers from other religions. The old tribal views no longer apply to Buddhists of the 21st century living in the global village. So now, in the 21st century, in a time of ecological crisis, Buddhism can lead the way towards mutual learning and harmonious exchange. We can unify the northern and southern traditions and bring the teachings of wisdom and compassion into interfaith conversations, and in this way demonstrate the value of religion in solving the afflictions of the modern world. Buddhism in China preserves the jewels of traditional Chinese culture: virtue, humaneness, filiality, and the Tao, Ren, Yi, Dao, De. And the centuries of Buddhism in China have made the foundation for world-transcending wisdom. Buddhists now worldwide can give these gifts to living beings and share the benefits that we Buddhists have enjoyed for centuries. A life of happiness and a beautiful life. I think the important point that I would really like to make here is that we face new challenges as Buddhists, whether we are Buddhists of a new world in the West, or whether we stand on the shoulders of our traditions in the East. The Buddha Dharma that came from Asia in the sutras is full of dragons, ghosts, gods, tree spirits, wheel-turning sage kings, chakravartins, countless living beings. Worlds exist within worlds. Buddhas turn the Dharma wheel inside motes of dust. The 6 paths of rebirth revolve constantly. This attitude of harmony and connection with the natural world is mirrored where? By science and also by native and indigenous peoples the world around. People who find Pachamama, our Mother Earth planet, a miraculous place of wonder and terror. In this view, humanity is not in charge. Humanity is part of a larger web. We are knit into, inextricably related to, all other species. In the view of the Buddha Dharma that came from Asia, the world is not anthropocentric, humans in the middle. If anything, the world is monocentric, mind-centered. Humanity's place is to find our spot in the web, to stay humble and reverent, to not waste, to be grateful, to be wise in our sharing and stewardship of resources, and to show gratitude and compassion to our other species and creatures who inhabit the planet with us. Only this way can we survive the time of climate change. To put the principles of the Dharma into practice, to have happiness and a beautiful life, we can reanimate nature, move one step closer to the planet that the marketplace world usually only exploits. The Dharma can teach us that we need not dominate. We need not own other species. Our sense of wonder is too often beaten into insensitivity, into abandoning the ultimately alive world of the original inhabitants of our globe. When the Dharma teaches about the environment, the Buddha's description says what? It says, all things in the universe arise dependent upon conditions. We are interrelated. We are interdependent. We are, each one of us, ultimately responsible for the well-being of the whole. At this point, the teaching of the cosmos, the teachings of the Buddha's widest view, becomes an ethical view, becomes a view that says, take responsibility, see what is right, love what is good for others the same way I love what is good for myself, the golden rule. This is not a fantasy, it's not warm and fuzzy, it's based on true seeing, on the Buddha's principle. The Buddha described the earth as a community of 10 Dharma realms to be lived in righteously and wisely, not as a commodity to be consumed and exploited by the strongest and the most ruthless. Simply by living into the Buddha's compassion, we have a huge contribution to make to the world where too often people give up on religion's ability to teach us anything about how to live in the world as it is. If we want to understand how Buddhism can help heal the globe, this lesson is available for us to pick up and to explore and to teach. American environmentalist Al Gore pointed out in his Nobel Prize-winning documentary film, An Inconvenient Truth, that the human potential for greed is the cause of our current critical situation on the planet with climate change. The Buddha, in naming greed a poison of the mind, said essentially that the destruction of the world and the healing of the world is done in a single thought. The mind purged of greed is the road to Buddhahood. The mind filled with greed can poison the universe and lead to suffering for all its inhabitants. In this way, the Buddha Dharma can contribute to a global environmental ethic, based on the Buddha's vision of things as they really are, beyond political agendas, beyond dogma or dialectic. The Buddha's teaching on the ultimate relatedness of all things reanimates the world and places humanity squarely within it, but not the center. The name of the teaching in Chinese is Tong Ti Da Bei, same body, great compassion, or identity in great compassion. Where does real great compassion begin? It begins with relationships. Humans can treat all beings as they would family, as kinfolk. It is as close to us, as real, and as non-theoretical as flesh, blood, warmth, breath, consciousness. This is the reality the Buddha described. Now, I'm not, with this principle, advocating that we return to a mythical, pre-modern golden age, a time when all things were in harmony, blissful ignorance. Indeed not. Once we see one picture, everything is different. And the Buddha's teaching of Yuan Yong Wu Ai, interpenetration without obstruction, once we see that picture, we understand. What is the picture? The picture is called Earthrise. I think most of you will be familiar with it. In 1968, an astronaut, while circling the moon on his 4th rotation around the moon from Apollo 8 spacecraft, pointed his camera out the window and took a picture of the Earth rising through the shadow of the moon. What that picture showed us was our tiny blue marble of a planet with its precious finite water set in a black infinite universe. And what it showed us is there is no more turning back to an isolated tribal self-interest and struggle for survival. Rather, the Buddha's wisdom and compassion asks us to step up to an awe and appreciation of the natural world with a global concern for all beings. We can share the pre-modern wonder that traditional peoples have always had for the heaven and for the earth and all its inhabitants, but we bring with it a global concern for all beings, a global ethic, a relatedness, and a responsibility for the entire earth community in our vision and in our hearts. This is a formula for human happiness based on sustainability. In Chinese, they say, 知足常乐，能忍自安. When we can learn to be content, 知足常乐, we are always happy. 能忍自安, when we can learn to be patient, we will always find peace. So the Buddhist idea of 知足, of knowing sufficiency, of knowing sustainability, is not that we have to suffer with some sort of a pinched self-denial. Instead, it's simply knowing when to stop. As the old bumper sticker said, how did that bumper sticker go? It said, live simply so that others can simply live. Our modern world's material development, extended to the globalization of the marketplace, has not brought us happiness. Buddhism's message is not that we have to give up and suffer, but that we have to find sufficiency at every level. As a model for deep sustainability, the Buddha Dharma has a succinct message. With fewness of desires, they experience genuine happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction. Now, how do we get there? Well, as I hope Ajahn Jayasaro shares with us when his turn comes, that Buddhists in Tibet, Buddhists in Thailand, Buddhists in Indonesia, Buddhists in the West can do well to emphasize education. That is how to propagate the Dharma. People come to me when I travel to Singapore, and they say, "Oh, Fasher, my children ran off to get baptized by the Christians. What do we do, Fasher?" And I say to them, "Well, tell me, how does it happen?" And they say, "Well, after school, the Christians bring a bus. They bring a bus right to the door of the school, and they put all the kids on the bus, and they take them to church in the basement. And you know what they do there? They feed them cookies, and they give them a hug, and they let them play basketball and have fun. And then they talk about Jesus. My kids don't want to be Buddhists anymore. What do I do?" So my answer was, "Well, tell me, do you have a Buddhist after-school program?" No. "Oh, you don't. Do you feed your kids cookies after school?" No, it's bad for their teeth." "Oh, okay. Do you hug your kids?" "Oh, no, we're Chinese, we don't hug." "Do you let your son play basketball or your daughter after school?" No, they have to go back to 补习班. They have to go back to supplemental mathematics school." "I see. And then when it's time to share your Dharma, to share the Buddhist teachings with your kids, what do they do? What do you show them?" Well, we do what we do. We take our beads and we recite the Buddha's name. Amitova, Amitova, Amitova. And do your kids do it? No, they run the other way. They think it's superstition." "I see. Well, do you know what, Mom and Dad? This is a buyer's market. The Buddhists have to up their game. If I was a kid, I would get on that bus. Much more fun." So, we Buddhists in the 21st century, if we are afraid that our younger generation are going to run off and get baptized as Christians or something else, then we need to find a way to emphasize education in the Dharma that is enjoyable. What did Master Hua do? Master Hua emphasized education in the Buddhist tradition as a way to propagate the Dharma in North America. Education is the most effective way to spread the Dharma in a religiously dynamic society, like Indonesia, like India, like Malaysia, like Thailand. Thailand is 95% Buddhist. It's another story. But outside, where Buddhism is brand new, Buddhists are new in the West. In the West, lines among churches, among monotheistic religions, and those outside the religions are drawn very clearly. So if we Buddhists bring one more religion to America, it's easy to be called a competing faith. Doors will close. Minds will close. To enter the culture, the Buddha Dharma cannot be presented at the outset as another competing school of thought. If instead we present the Dharma as a system of humanities, of inquiry into wisdom, of sharing of universally inherent principles, of philosophy, ethics, and science, people will have a better chance to judge the teachings of the Dharma on its own merits. So for this reason, Master Hua instructed Buddhist educators not to use the word Buddhism, but instead to call the Dharma the teachings of wisdom, the teachings of the mind, the teachings of sentient beings, or deep psychological investigation. Schools that teach wisdom humanities like this in the Buddhist tradition are neutral and unthreatening. Young people enter the door. They learn lessons of basic humanity in the traditional way. They learn to be filial, to repay their parents' kindness. They learn to respect teachers and elders. When they hear the various principles, then, they make up their own mind about their future religious faith. If Buddhists were to set up a church with a distinctly Asian flavor and start teaching traditional forms and ceremonies, the only people who will draw near are traditional disciples, ethnic Buddhists who hear the sounds familiar to monasteries in Asia. That demographic shrinks numerically with each generation. In this way, Buddhism will not grow, but will serve instead only the population of Chinese-speaking Buddhists, or Thai-speaking Buddhists, or Tibetan-speaking Buddhists. So, what do we teach in our school? We teach psychology. Professor Houston Smith, the celebrated educator and writer on religion, expressed to me in conversation that one of the major avenues for Buddhist interest and acceptance in the West will be psychology, and that the dialogue between psychology and Buddha Dharma will contribute to shape Western Buddhism in the 21st century. Buddhism's orientation towards psychology has already paved a broad highway of East-West exchange and mutual learning. Two levels of inquiry are emerging now from the dialogue between psychology and Buddhism. One, we use the Buddhist description of the mind in the sutras as a pathway for self-understanding, a meditative, therapeutic model. And two, we're investigating the interaction between Buddhist theories of mind and neuroscience. Formal studies are ongoing in University of Wisconsin, Madison, UCLA, Stanford, among other research institutions. So this is a place where Buddhist schools, Buddhist education can bring the Dharma forward. Further, among the world's major religions, Buddhism is the most science-friendly, the least antagonistic to science, the spirit of inquiry. In fact, our prince, whose birthday we'll be celebrating this month, set off into the bush, they say in Australia, into the forest outside the palace, precisely with the mind of a scientist. He wanted to find out. He wanted to investigate. He wanted to learn about the mind, the body, and primary question, can death reach an end? Is it possible to overcome mortality? He approached it very scientifically. You don't have to stretch the analogy that the Buddha's experience of practice in the forest for 6 years fits the paradigm of proper scientific investigation. He worked from a theoretical hypothesis that birth and death can come to an end, samsara can stop, nirvana can begin. He employed a variety of methodologies in his research. He discarded the methods that led to extremes. Further, he left a paper trail in the sutras, and he bequeathed the fruits of his research for testing to anyone who might use his methods to seek answers on their own. His model of scientific inquiry has been tested by subjects East and West now for 2,500 years. So, with these ideas in mind, that the Buddha Dharma needs to heal our split, our intra-Buddhist split between Theravada and Mahayana, between the Tibetan Mahayana and the Vajrayana. That will do a lot to making Buddhists happy and to make a more beautiful Buddhism, so that when we go from that internal unity out to talk to members and teachers, believers in other religions, we'll be able to speak from a single body of experience, from the principles of the Dharma. Furthermore, Buddha Dharma can be the primary flag carrier, we might say, of a Buddhism that is aware of the crisis of climate change and our sense of being broken from the natural environment. From the Buddhist point of view, everything is connected from our minds out. There's no place where my mind and your mind doesn't touch, indeed. So we use that connection to constantly send metta, send kindness and compassion to all living beings. And in this way, the Buddha Dharma can inform all those modern thinking, science-based people who want to have their religion connect to their very real world concerns. How can Buddhism help us better understand the crises and the challenges facing us now in the 21st century? The Buddha Dharma's sense of moving humanity out of the middle, stitching us into the fabric of all life, and speaking on behalf of all living beings who have the Buddha nature. That is a way to make Buddhists happy and to lead to a beautiful life. So I see that my time is quickly coming to an end. I would like to wish well-being for all of us today on the call, for all of those of you who work with KCBI and bringing the Dharma to Indonesia, and also wish well to my fellow panelists who will be with us in the next weekends of the month coming up to the Buddha's birthday. The Sangha, the Buddha's left home community, you could say are an endangered species, and they need our protection because it's very hard to keep the precepts fresh and bright in a world where there is so much temptation, where with a single click of your computer mouse, you can bring the internet like a highway right into your desktop, right into your cell phone. It's really important to keep people focused on the values of freedom, liberation from suffering, of service to the globe, of the opportunity to bring peace and joy to every living being. So that's our job. That's the job of the Sangha, to keep the Buddha's torch of wisdom lit and bright into the 21st century. I would like to invite anyone who would like to know more about how Master Hsuan is taught the Dharma and what he left behind for us to put our shoulder to the wheel, so to speak. Please go to www.drbu.edu. We've got hosts and panelists here. We got everyone. I'm going to put that in the chat box, www.drbu.edu. This is Dharma Realm Buddhist University. There we go. DRBU. Do check it out. This is a way to keep these ideas fresh, to understand how we can make the Buddha Dharma communicate easily to 21st century people, modern people worldwide who are looking for ways to make their religion apply to the world and the problems they see on a daily basis, and also to keep alive the path to liberation from suffering. Furthermore, if people are interested in my version of contemporary expedient teachings, please check out dharmaradio.org. www.dharmaradio.org. That's a website that I keep Buddhist music, podcasts, and access to Dharma teachings available. If you would like to download some Buddhist music for free, do a good deed, something that you consider a wholesome use of your time, beneficial deed. Go to Dharma Radio and look for Good Karma Music. That's the title on the page. In Good Karma Music, there's a form. You type in, what did you do? What wholesome deed did you do? How did you benefit the world today? And then you hit submit, and you can choose from 3 Buddhist albums that I have created and recorded. And also currently we have an album, it's a three songs, an EPA by the abbot of a Catholic Benedictine retreat in Big Sur, California, New Camaldoli Hermitage. Father Cyprian Concilio, who is the abbot of the Benedictine monastery, who also records sacred music. wonderful songs, and they're available to you for free if you do a good deed. In exchange for good deeds, we give you music. It's called Good Karma Music. So go check out www.dharmaradio.org. All right, my time is up. Thank you again to KCBI and all the volunteers for your hard work in helping this program reach Buddhists worldwide. Ami Tofo.
Omi Toho. Thank you, Venerable Master, for your teaching. For me, myself, and maybe I'm representing other participants who also listening to you, I feel like your Dharma teaching is like a refreshing way to listen to the Dharma. That's how I feel. And because especially we are here in the Asia, we used to connect it with another Buddhist community in the same Asia countries. But it's a very new experience for us to also get connected with the Buddhist community in the Western. So it's really refreshing to listen to you. And
Lovely.
I also feel so touched when you shared with us the stories about Master Heng and Master Shunhua and everyone in the Western. So I hope everyone listening to you today will get very inspired and put all your suggestions into actions, especially
Ami
for
Tofo.
our Buddha Dharma cultivation.
Lovely.
And yes, we have a few questions
Okay.
submitted here. I will read the questions. The first question is, Master Heng Shure, is there any reason why the Agamas collection of suttas are not taught? Most Chinese-speaking Buddhists only learn the later Mahayana suttas.
So repeat the question is, what is the reason why? What is not taught?
Oh, is there any reason why the Agamas collection
Oh,
of suttas are not taught? Most Chinese-speaking Buddhists only learn the later Mahayana suttas.
so the reason is that, in fact, the Hanjing, which is the way the agamas are taught in Chinese, are very popular in my community. People pick them up, particularly the Dhammapada, and that's one of the best known, and some of the later agamas. They're very popular, but they were translated late. And I need to also mention there's a sad but true reality that most Mahayana, most Chinese Northern tradition Buddhists use sutras only to recite or to memorize, which is fine. That's good. Reciting sutras is a lot of merit. Memorizing sutras, Master Hsuanhua used to encourage us to commit the sutras to memory. That is done too. Rarely do people get an opportunity to listen to the sutras being explained. My teacher, Master Hsuanhua, I mentioned at the start that he was a reformer. He was very critical of his own Mahayana tradition, the Chinese Han Chuan Fojiao, they say, the Chinese tradition, precisely because they didn't investigate the sutras, neither the Agamas nor the Mahayana sutras, the Lotus, the Shurangama, the Avatamsaka, sutras like that. What he did in order to change that situation was every single night, for 90 minutes, from 7:30 to 9 p.m. for 30 years, no exaggeration, Saturdays twice, Sundays twice, Master Hua opened the sutras and explained them line by line. We English-speaking disciples translated them and then published them. The Buddhist Text Translation Society has over 300 volumes of Mahayana sutras. Now, were the Agamas part of that? They were not, because as the Dharma came through China over thousands of years, there were two schools in particular that took responsibility for the sutras. One was called the Tiantai, in Japan known as Tendai. The other was called the Xianshou. they focus particularly on the lotus and on the Avatamsaka, which are massive, massive, long, long sutras. Master Hua explained the Avatamsaka Sutra every night, and it took him 9 years to finish. 9 years to finish a single sutra. So you can know that when this is your project, to explain, to translate these massive sutras, the agamas, he said, contain excellent Buddhist principles. You can't do without the teachings of the agamas. They are the Buddhist Dharma. Study them on your own, he said. Study them on your own. But his 90 minutes every night for 30 years was devoted to explaining these vast Mahayana sutras so that in the West we could hear the Buddha's voice once again, speaking Dharma. So it's not that there's anything wrong with the agamas, it's that when you have sutras as long as the Mahayana texts, you have to ration your time. And so we did read the agamas on our own.
Okay, thank you, Master. The second question, maybe this question may be about what you have mentioned earlier, but I know maybe you want to elaborate more with this question. Amitofo Dharma Master Sure, what will be your advice be to teach the young of ages 13 to 17 on Buddha Dharma? Thank you.
Okay, let me ask you, Jessica, how long do we have enough questions to fill up our time? I need to learn where to edit my answers.
Okay,
how much time do we have?
For now, we have 5 questions, and this is the second questions.
Okay, and we're going for another, what, 15 minutes or half hour?
Yes, I think 15 minutes is okay.
Okay, good, good. All right, so the question is about curriculum for young people. That is a question for Ajahn Jayasaro. Haha. Not that we have to wait till he comes up at the end. But Ajahn Jayasaro has very successfully pioneered education in the Buddhist tradition for young children in Bangkok and other places in Thailand. I have been to his schools and seen the young people and how bright they are. Master Hsuan created Yu Liang Xiaoxue, Pei De Zhongxue, cultivating goodness, elementary school, and instilling virtue, middle school, along with Dharma Realm Buddhist University. City of 10,000 Buddhas is centered around the Buddha Hall, of course, and the monastery for nuns and the monastery for monks. But the most active part of the campus every day are our schools, kindergarten to 12th grade. So we are, if I had to say, what is my primary job as a Buddhist monk, I would probably say something like a storyteller. I tell sacred stories. I keep the sutras alive and try to preserve the Buddhist teachings, keeping the precepts as best I can, practicing meditation, and then propagating expedient wisdom. Shila Samadhi Prajna, Sila Samadhi Panya. That's probably my job. But I also teach school. I'm a school teacher. I've taught everything from 3rd grade to graduate seminary in the universities. Our curriculum begins with teaching young people. Jessica, the question specified age 12 to 17, was that what it was?
13 to 17.
Okay, so my answer was going to focus on younger children. 13 to 17 are teenagers, that's high school. So what do young people need to learn in high school? Just to respond to the, well, I'll go back. Young people learn about filiality. They learn to repay the kindness of their parents, of their teachers, of their elders, of donors, of living beings, of the nation, of their leaders, with that sense of connection vertically. So you acknowledge that your life came from your parents. And even though if you have a difficult story and you don't maybe get along that well with your parents, still by being grateful, learning gratitude, then you extend that same feeling of gratitude horizontally to siblings. So a child who is knit into vertical gratitude to parents and then horizontal gratitude to siblings in the community, that's a child who is knit into the fabric of family and community. that child will not be alienated. That child will not have a sense of loneliness. He won't be as likely to commit suicide, which is now more and more and more a major problem in a world where our only friends come from where? Our only friends come from our cell phones, our Facebook friends, our TikTok friends. How sad is that world? So education for children begins there. When a child gets to beyond puberty, 13 to 17, in high school, that same identity in the nuclear family is extended to the community. Children at that age begin to ask questions. Who am I in the community? Who are my friends? Who do I listen to? Who do I obey? Who can I disobey? Right? You test your strength when you're an adolescent. And so the lessons at that point are community and country and land. You connect to the environment. You realize that you have a share in keeping the world, making the world a better place. That's the lessons for teenagers. In our schools, we separate boys and girls. The boys study in their boys' school through high school. The girls study in their girls' school through high school. They are not allowed to use electronic devices of any kind. Our teenage boys and girls do not use cell phones at school. What they do at home is up to them. If they live in the dormitory, they're overseas students, then they have to do without cell phones, Game Boys, electronic devices. So that is key to education in the Buddhist tradition, the way it was set up by Master Hua. Students focus on reading. They focus on athletics. They have a wonderful soccer team, football team. They have wonderful volleyball teams, boys and girls alike, basketball teams. They learn the classics. They learn languages. They learn nature and environment and physical science. So this is the education that we teach kids in education in the Buddhist tradition. Once they get out of high school and apply and are admitted to university, if they go to university, community college, wherever they go, there's plenty of time to catch up on the boyfriends and girlfriends they didn't have in high school. All that education comes later. But while they're in school, it's a priceless time for them to be able to absorb wisdom. We're not making little Buddhists. We are making wholesome living beings, good people, good citizens, who on their own later will be able to choose what faith tradition they like.
Master, I do hope that so many people are listening to you right now, especially those who are in an education system, especially maybe in Buddhist community education system. Because as for myself, being a young adult now, I was once also a child. I do agree with what the Master said before, what children have to have certain education, and the education should be more emphasizing in their psychological, because all the education they receive will actually mold the young children to the young adult, and yes, as the Master said, to be a wholesome beings. So I hope so many people will listen to this teaching today and will get inspired again to make a new education system to be more accessible to everyone, to all children, to all families.
I hope so too.
The third question, it's quite long. I'm Jovini from Central Java, Indonesia. I'm one of the Buddhist college students in Indonesia. Indonesia is a multicultural country, sufficiently tolerant, but at any time, religion and ethnic conflicts may appear. In Buddhism, one of the first lists in Dasa Samyojana is Sakaya Ditti. As the modern world develops day by day, each individual gradually builds up our own ego, which easily causes conflicts and frictions. Are there any ways to develop Buddhism in multicultural country like Indonesia and work hand on hand with other religions without suppressing the essence of the Buddhism itself? Thank you, Venerable Master.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's very subtle sensitive question. And the answer is yes. I spend a portion of every week for the last 20 years doing interfaith work. I taught at the Graduate Theological Union, which is UC Berkeley's seminary, a course called Buddhist Christian Dialogue for 10 years, for a decade. So indeed, as I mentioned in my talk, in America now, and in Australia as well, in North America, including Canada, most people have never seen a Buddhist monk. Most people have never heard the Dharma. The idea of Sanskrit or Pali as a language that they care about doesn't exist. They have no idea what the Sangha is about. So everything that they know about Buddhism is brand new. Understanding that we have been tribal. I use that word 5 or 6 times in my talk. That is to say, before we communicated, before we saw Earth rise, that picture of the planet Earth in this black expansive space, before we saw that we are truly a global village, it was very easy to know nothing about any other religion and not even care. That time is over. We're in a different world now, and it's very important to learn about other religions. The questioner asked about saying that ego gets hard edges and hard boundaries, and that extends to people fighting and conflict among other religions. I find that for Buddhists in America, for example, like Indonesia, it is what's called a pluralistic religious culture. That's to say, many religions together, trying to get along. It's very important that we, as the new kid on the block, we're the new religion in town, that we open our monastery and invite others in without any sense of winning or conflict or converting. Just that's not the goal. The goal of a good Buddhist in a pluralistic community like Java, as described, is to be a good neighbor. So what do I recommend? I recommend listening. Listening to others' teaching, and meet them somewhere where you can share food, where you can share music, where you can share views on service to elders, where you can share views on raising youth wholesomely. And a very good place is the Panchashila. Most people have no idea that Buddhists do not kill, do not steal, do not commit sexual misconduct, do not lie, and don't use intoxicants. That's one place where Buddhism and Islam get along very well. But until you find a way to wholesomely share that aspect of the Dharma while still appreciating, learning more deeply about the religion of your neighbors, until you do that, they think, in the West, they think, oh, Buddhism just means sitting under a tree seeking nirvana, kind of having no responsibility for the community. Or either that, or they think that Buddhism just means license to do whatever you want, whatever feels good. They don't know. And so when the Buddhists say, fundamental to calling yourself a Buddhist is a commitment to do no harm. What we mean is we cherish life, we cherish property, we cherish relationships, we cherish integrity, we cherish sobriety and wisdom, clarity. They go, I didn't know that. Do you ever have any fun at all? That sounds like no fun. And the Buddhists say, yeah, well, we have fun meditating. We really enjoy our stillness. And we love to serve. And I can serve you better when you're not afraid of me. When you're not afraid that I'm going to try to steal your kids, steal their minds and turn them into Buddhists. When you're not afraid that I'm I don't have any killing karma around me because I don't kill animals for food. So when they learn that, that harmony among religions is much easier at that point. So I think very important for Buddhists, first of all, to heal the split internally, to heal that intra-Buddhist disharmony that too often we share. And then from there, present ourselves as what? Kind and compassionate. Very important. People worldwide now are very interested in mindfulness, aren't they? I'm sure Indonesia, Thailand, Tibet, India, where Tibetans live, everywhere you go, people are learning mindfulness. Why? Because our world is too hot. Our world is too full of chaos and destruction and terror and fear. People think, COVID-19, how can I survive? We say, sit still. Watch your thoughts rise and fall. And then you say what? We don't own it. We don't say, you just did Buddhist meditation. Ha ha ha. What we say instead is, this is a life skill, a heritage skill of humanity. People need to slow down. We need to listen within. I bet your teaching has stillness and contemplation at its heart. Christianity deeply has Christian contemplation. Judaism has Jewish contemplation. So I think this is one way that Buddhists can open up to other religions, invite your neighbors in for food, invite them in for songs, do a song swap, invite them in for a peace hour where you listen to each other's teachings. These are ways to find harmony among religions in Java and worldwide.
Okay, thank you, Venerable Master. The next question is, how to be able to believe in the law of karma, past lives, and reincarnation? Is this part of the Buddha's teaching?
Indeed. Indeed it is. The Buddha said, when we talk about the three poisons, greed, anger, and delusion, that third one is sometimes taught as wrong view, not delusion. And what is wrong view? Wrong view is not believing in cause and effect, disbelief in cause and effect. So the question is, how do you believe in it? My answer is, if you don't believe in it, you better watch out, because it's coming for you, whether you believe in it or not. Someone who says, you all can't see me, right? The sun is not shining. I am not on Zoom at the moment because I can't see you, right? That's the attitude of somebody who disbelieves in cause and effect. The problem with disbelief in cause and effect is that you feel that you're not responsible for your actions. And the beginning of wisdom is to appreciate how even science, Newton, his law of thermodynamics, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The law of cause and effect extends even into the physical world. So certainly I cannot tell you how this talk that I gave today, invited by KCBI, getting to meet all of you, I don't know how many ripples will go out from this talk and benefit the world. I can't see that, but I guarantee that this lecture series, the panelists that you've invited, will have a positive effect on the world. Sometimes cause and effect is visible even in what you don't do. I remember once we had a situation in amid the Sangha. There was a couple monks had a misunderstanding, and the misunderstanding was based on actually it was a rumor. Somebody had deliberately tried to upset. The situation was there was a position of authority available, and one person really wanted it, and one of the monks wanted to be promoted to this position, And because I was the senior monk, someone else said, "Oh, you know, so-and-so wants this." He said, that Heng sure wants it. So I was away from the monastery, and I didn't even know that this campaign of disharmony was being, conducted in my absence. So we had a Sangha meeting, and face to face, the monk who was my colleague, my Dharma brother, said, "Well, you've been saying all these terrible things about me because you want to be in charge of this job." And I said, no, I don't, actually. I'm way too busy. I don't have any interest in that job. "Yes, you do. I've heard from all sides that you really want this job and that you're going to put me down and take it yourself." And I said, "Actually, I don't. No. And if I really hope that you take this position and do a good job." And face to face, because honestly, I hadn't even considered this as something that I wanted, his fire and the attacks on me met no resistance, no fire coming back. You could say my mind was asbestos. It couldn't catch fire, right? And so the fire that he was shooting didn't come back. And what did he say? He said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I apologize." He said, I see, I can tell just by looking at you that in fact that's true. You don't. Who was spreading that gossip? Gossip is bad. Gossip is evil. Better to not talk than spread gossip, especially among the Sangha. He said, "I apologize." He said, "I don't think I should have that job either." He said, "I listened to gossip. Well, let's give the job to the junior monk and let him do it." So there's cause and effect from the reverse. Its absence of action immediately led to what? No war. So if you simply refuse to get angry, if you reflect enmity towards you and think, "I don't understand what that person is saying. They're speaking Greek and I don't speak Greek. So how could I get upset?" Simply be patient under insult and slander, then nothing goes back. It stops. You stop a war. So there's cause and effect right in front of you by absence of action, right? You put out the fire when you refuse to get angry. So I don't know if that's convincing, but as I said, if you don't believe in cause and effect, you probably will have a hard time with learning the rest of the Dharma.
Thank you, Master. We still have 2 more questions, if you allow.
I'll be quick. I'll
Okay.
answer quicker.
Okay, because I think this question is important.
Okay.
The next question is from Venerable Bhikkhu Dhammawudo. To build education for millennials in Indonesia requires a fairly expensive cost. Is there any suggestion or the best solution according to the Master for the Sangha and Dharma Dutas or Viharas in order to properly expound the Dhamma to them?
So the question was, it requires cost?
Yes, it requires a fairly expensive cost to build a very good education system for millennials based on Buddhism. Yeah.
For millennials. And by millennials, I guess he means not Sangha members, right? Lay people.
Not Sangha members, yes.
Okay.
For lay people, children,
yeah.
and teenagers, yes.
Okay.
Do you have any idea how?
Yeah, I do. And I do, in fact. And I thank the Venerable for his question. If the question is about curriculum, what to teach, then there are many, many models available. If you're seriously interested in curriculum for high school students in a Buddhist we call it education in the Buddhist tradition, not a Buddhist school. We're not creating Buddhists, but school and a curriculum based on the Buddha's wisdom, then I would invite you to send an email to, let me see, I'll have to get the email. I'm going to go online right this minute. I'm going to go to drba.org. DRBA, that's our home website, and go to education, K to 12 schools, right here. K to 12, here we go. Please see the website, that's what I was looking for. Okay, I'm going to copy that email, that website, and paste it into our chat box. It's a very nice website that lays out, let's see, here's the chat. Okay, that's going to everyone. It's IGDVS, Instilling Goodness, Developing Virtue School.org. IGDVS.org. It's in the chat box, everybody can look. So, Venerable, if you start there, they are very, very happy to share with you all the details about what is successful teaching young people who, some who are preparing for college. And we have been very successful in sending our graduates to prestigious universities and to community colleges as well. Some of our graduates have gone on to PhDs at MIT, at Princeton, at UC Berkeley, et cetera, Stanford. So, and there are other educational goals that some young people have. They simply want a well-rounded education. They don't plan to be scholars. They want to lead a good, happy life. There's information about that as well. So that detailed information about creating a curriculum is there and available for people who like to teach in a Buddhist tradition. Excuse me. And also, if you have specific questions about a particular situation that you'd like to ask, there will be a place on that website where you can contact our monks and our nuns who are involved in the teaching and who are responsible for the schools. So please go to Instilling Goodness and Developing Virtue. And should you get no satisfactory answer, please email me and I will connect you with resources.
What I know, Venerable Bhikkhu Dhammabuddho also very actively participating in propagating the Dharma through education to young people. We
Wonderful.
also have a Buddhism-based schools here. So I think
Terrific.
it's a very good opportunity to be connected with you.
We would love to learn from you.
Okay. Yes. Venerable Bante is also here listening.
Great.
Yes. Okay. The last question. Master, I think the future of the Buddha Dharma lies in the monastic Sangha. We need to train the trainers. What can we do to encourage more monastics? Can we have paid pastors like Christianity?
Can we have what pastors?
Paid.
Paid
They got
pastors. Interesting idea. Again, if I want to talk from my experience, Master Hua created what was called the Sangha Laity Training Program, SLTP, Sangha Laity Training Program. I'm going to do the very same thing that I just did and go back to drba.org and go to Lay Training. There we go. Sangha Laity Training Program website is called SLTP. And again, I'm going to, this is kind of tedious, isn't it, for me to keep giving you websites, but these are good questions and they've been asked before. So I want to, instead of my just talking off the top of my head, I want to give you factual responses. There it is. SLTP, that's https://sltp.drba.org. So that's a place to begin. So yes, I agree. The Sangha is precious. in Chinese you say 法来僧传, the Dharma depends upon the Sangha for its propagation. And it's, you need an informed Sangha. I find that the very best thing to encourage people's, we say to encourage people to make the Bodhi resolve, the Bodhicitta, Putishin, that's where the path begins, is you have to challenge young people and say, what are you capable of? What is your potential? What if you, never mind the fact that you're a girl, never mind the fact that you're a boy, never mind the fact that your dad is a poor man, never mind the fact that your mom is so rich that you've never had to work a single day. At some point, people in their minds think, what could I become? What is my potential? And if at that point they see someone who inspires them, someone who either through their behavior, through their words, through their virtue, there's a kind of a light and a radiance that they shine with, that presence inspires the person who is asking that question to become like them. That is the beginning of the path. The Bodhi resolve has two parts in the Bodhicitta, in our definition of it, the Mahayana. We say, in Chinese they say, 上乘佛道. Ultimately, you understand that perfect wisdom, omniscience, is your potential. You have the potential to be as wise and as kind as the Buddha. And the second part is 下化众生. In order to get there, what we have to do is remove the coverings, the ignorance, the avidya, the wuming, that covers our Buddha nature. And what is that covering? It's our code language, we say, all living beings. All living beings, the living beings of my nature, who have not woken up. They're not awake. They're not clear yet. Those are the living beings who I have to hua, who I have to teach. So ultimately, I can become wise. Immediately, I need to get to work to change my bad habits and faults and remove the coverings that prevent my wisdom from radiating with the light of virtue. That's the language that we use. So how does that happen? How does the Bodhi resolve come alive? You need to meet someone. You need to hear the Dharma. You need to be so impressed with somebody who is already on the Buddhist path that you think, I want to be just like them. Ananda, the Buddha's own cousin, saw the Buddha, and he was so radiant, and so his wisdom was so magnificent that Ananda said, I want to be like you. Ananda was foremost in erudition. He was the smartest and the best educated, but he wanted to be like the Buddha. He said, I'm going to set everything else aside and follow him. So that dynamic is still alive in the world. So it's up to the Sangha members to be inspiring as best they can. Then there will be another generation of people who, seeing them, respond and want to be like them and make that Bodhi resolve.
Okay, thank you, Venerable Master. Now, I think we received a lot of merit today. Only by listening to Master Heng share, it's really eye-opening, heart-opening. So after we receive a lot of merits today, I'm sure that we want to share our merits. So I would like to ask Master to lead us with the dedication prayer.
I would be happy to. Am I allowed to play an instrument? I probably shouldn't play my guitar, should I?
Sure,
I usually
please.
do with the guitar.
Please,
No,
please, yes, we would love to hear that.
I have Thai and Tibetan monks on the panel. They're going to think, oh, this monk has forgotten his precepts. Okay, here we go. So please make a wish. I'll bring my banjo into the mix. All right. The thing about dedication and merit is that you do it yourself. And please don't think that your merit dedication doesn't matter. Indeed, it does. as I said, there's no place where minds don't touch in space. My mind and your mind, even separated from Indonesia to Australia to California, through space, there are no fences between minds. So we use that connection to send out our merit with a wish for however we would like to make a better world. In Judaism, they call it tikkun olam, repairing the world. And indeed, that's what we're doing. So make that wish, and we'll use our dedication prayer to send it off. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light. Oop, I'm going to stop that. Hold that prayer. Don't move. There we go. One more time. Please continue. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Master. Okay, so I hope this is the beginning of our interconnectedness. And along with the spiritual cultivation, we also keep recreating innovations based on the Buddha Dharma in this 21st century. So because we only meet online, we cannot meet face-to-face for now. As a token of gratitude, we would like to present to you an e-certificate. Please. This is just a token of gratitude, but it doesn't make any less of our gratitude to you as our master, as our Dharma teacher. Thank
That's
you,
lovely.
Venerable Master.
Grateful. Ganan Amitofo.
Amitofo. Okay, so the next thing is yeah, I think it's coming to an end. I'm sorry, I feel a little bit touched. I would like to, before we finish today, I would like to also extend our gratitude to all the volunteers working behind so that the event run smoothly, despite this is the first time we are doing this internationally with all a very best venerable teachers. So I would like to give credits to all my friends from the translators team, the MCs team, the help desk team, and the question and answer team, the IT team, system and application, and everyone else that I cannot mention one by one. But in the end, there will be an ending credits, and you can also read all the people behind. They're all work very well, and I cannot be proud of them. So next is we all agreed, I guess, that this is all the precious opportunity we have here to listen to the Dharma from our Venerable Master, in hope that we can always practice the Dharma in our daily life. We have to keep recreating, we have to innovate ourselves to make our life a better life and to be beneficial for all beings. Thank you to all participants who joined today. We hope to see you again next week on April 17th with His Eminence Zurmang Garwang Rinpoche. If you have joined today's session, you can use the same Zoom link for the rest of the session. But if you are watching the rerun after this session, you can register for the next sessions with the registration link shown on the poster you see on the screen now. Okay, so you can still register if you haven't. It's a very precious opportunity to listen to all the teachers. Okay, I guess that's all. Thank you for today. Thank you once again, Venerable Master Heng.
Thank you, Jessica.
I hope you have a good day and see you next week, everyone.
Amitofo. Bye, everybody.
Amitofo, Venerable Master.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
迷失在名利为俘虏牵挂，像一场迷雾笼罩着你呀，淡薄的想法，自在的人啊，像一场春雨滋润着莲花，浮生像落花季，流水年华，寂寂与静谧，奔波的人啊，欣然的美丽，看凡尘变化，盛开的绽放，羞耻的生活。倾向自由的云朵，看欢喜随春雨洒落，滋润哭泣的人们，观自在，看花谢花落，让心倾向自由的云朵，飘过海呀，越过山峰，乘着光阴，化身为彩虹。 细随春雨洒落，滋润哭泣的人们，观自在看花谢花落，让心倾向自由的云朵，飘过海呀，越过山峰，乘着光影化身为彩虹。你是在命里为俘虏牵挂，像一场迷雾笼罩着你呀，淡薄的想法自在的人啊，像一场春雨滋润着莲花，浮生像落花季，流水年华，寂寂与静谧，奔波的人啊，欣然的美丽，看凡尘变化，盛开的绽放，羞耻的升华。倾向自由的云朵，看欢喜随春雨洒落，滋润哭泣的人们，观自在看花谢花落，让心倾向自由的云朵，飘过海呀，越过山峰，乘着光影